DuckTalks is part of Res TV's network of podcasts. Check out res.tv for other great podcasts. It's the week of Monday, March 23rd, and you're listening to episode 96 of DuckTalks. A promo? Already? No, we were waiting on a promo, let's be honest. We were on the edge of our seat, ready for a promo to come out. And that's what we're going to talk about this week on this episode of DuckTalks. But before we get into that, let's do some introductions. Like this podcast, this is DuckTalks. We're a DuckTales and Disney Afternooniverse fan podcast that likes to cover all the news of the new DuckTales series, the old DuckTales series, all those great Disney Afternoon shows that you can find on Disney Plus, some that maybe you can't find on Disney Plus. Surely we'll cover those eventually. We like video games, comic books. We like to talk about it all. So if you're into those things, you're in the right place. My name's Mitch. I'm one of your hosts. Joining me again this week, I have my pals, Pirate Steven and Josh.
Ahoy there.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Well, we've had a fun weekend. And a lot of news, a lot of interaction online, and it's been one of those weekends where even though everything's been going kind of crazy, and like we said last week, we'll acknowledge that things are crazy, but we're going to try to stay in the realm of something fun to give you all of our listeners a release from all the current events and news. Over the weekend, there was tons of DuckTales news and tons of stuff for us to talk about, and we're excited to not only be here, the three of us, ready to talk about this new promo, but we have a guest for you. And I'm sure once everyone finds out about this guest, they're going to be extremely excited. I've talked with some other Duck fans online about this guest showing up in the future. And actually, he's been requested quite a few times when I've talked to people. Now that I've talked him up a little bit, we'd like to welcome Sean Buckley to the podcast.
Howdy ho, everyone. You guys talk about me like behind my back in Twitter DMs?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's
the best
flattering.
place to talk about people.
That's so flattering and so terrifying. Yeah, my name is Sean. You guys probably all know me a little bit better as Seaniccus on YouTube. I am a weird, long-headed dork who somehow fell into talking about DuckTales like a lot, and it's super fun and weird.
When I first found out about DuckTales returning, or that the reboot was coming, and I started searching for anything out there, your channel was one of the first things I came across with any type of speculation and discussion of the upcoming show, and I quickly just fell in love with the speculation, because when you started off, I think you were doing stuff maybe with real Ghostbusters or other video games. And then you started to talk about DuckTales, or maybe you talked about the reboot once, and then next thing you know, you were talking about how all the characters were changing, and it was a lot of fun.
It was kind of an accident. So yeah, my YouTube channel is actually pretty old. If you go way back, there's a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with DuckTales. There's a bunch of really ancient videos when I was trying to do like gaming reviews at first, because when you start YouTube, you don't really know what you're doing. So I was like, I have a lot of Steam games. Let's play every Steam game I have. And I got through like 2 of them because that was such an intensive process that I just didn't get anywhere. And then I started, but I was always really into cartoons and animation. And so I was trying to remember, well, what did I like that I was a kid when I was a kid that I could talk about? And yeah, I started reviewing the real Ghostbusters cartoon, and nobody watched those, but that was a great lesson in like learning to edit. And by the time it came to DuckTales, that was sort of an accident. I was doing my Ghostbusters review while I was working every week, and I did one video on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that got really big and got picked up by GameSpot and Polygon and a couple other sites. And then that all dropped off. People stopped watching, and I just went back to my regular thing, and I saw, hey, this new DuckTales show. And I had all these ideas about it and a couple of theories about it that tied into some things I can give you some history on. And I just made that video, and it exploded. Like, it just got like really big. And I was like, okay, I guess I better do some more of that.
Yeah, your channel was great. I know that with my kids, we had been watching the original DuckTales for a while. I'd grabbed them on DVD, and so they knew the character slightly. And so as we were getting introduced to the images, and you started before. I might be wrong here. You started your videos before the premiere. Is that correct, or was it right after the premiere?
No, I think it was a couple weeks or maybe a couple months before the premiere. I started my videos when the very first trailer came out. Because when that trailer came out, it was like there was all sorts of stuff in that trailer that just like set off things in my mind.
Yeah, I was thinking you had some clips in those videos, and that's why I was trying to work that out. But yeah, they were great videos. They continue to be great videos. I know you've had some things, happening in your life that you've gotten a little bit behind recently, and you've expressed that you're excited to get started again. But man, season 3's coming quick.
Yeah, season 3 is just like right on my heels, and I'm still. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, there'll be something for people on my channel. But I'm still like 4 episodes behind, and I'm like, oh man, I got like a week and a half.
They're great episodes too. I know you've got a lot of great discussion, a lot of topics to bring up on those videos. So we want to make sure we point people to your channel so that they can check it out. In all honesty, I'd be shocked if anyone listening to this podcast doesn't know about your YouTube channel, just because the communities. You're such a fan favorite of the community. Everybody just feels like you're their buddy. So I appreciate that. I think that's a great way to approach things, and my kids love watching your videos. I think before we started, you were talking about a young relative of yours watching them. So it's really cool to see potential new Duck fans getting into the series through online content. It's really cool.
Yeah, the whole online community has been really amazing because it's such. I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, but it's such a wide breadth. I don't know what the right word is, but it's a wide degree of different fans. I've talked to fans who are in other countries from all ages, fans who are like 30 years older than me, fans who are like 30 years younger than me. It's amazing how wide this fandom is.
Yeah, it really shocks me when I have to stop and translate something that we get from someone. I mean, it's just like, I can't believe I'm having these conversations. It's just very cool. And you're a fan of I can't remember, is it the newspaper strips? I know that I've seen some videos on those. Don't you collect those as well?
Yeah, I've only mentioned this in a couple of videos, but I try and talk them up whenever I can. I'm a fan of a lot of things, but this is actually a perfect segue, actually. My whole duck fandom starts with DuckTales, right? When I was a little kid, I grew up watching this show. And then you grow up and you try and act like you're too tough for the things you really love, and you kind of grow out of it. And so I didn't really grow out of it, but there's no kid in high school is going to be cool for liking DuckTales. But right after high school, I got a job at my local comic book store, Hijinks Comics in San Jose. If you're ever in San Jose, go shop there. And the owner at the time was a really nice guy named Dan, and he really liked Scrooge McDuck. Right. And I was just like, oh, yeah, like DuckTales. He's like, no, not DuckTales. And he was like one of those guys. Yeah. And he was like, you need to read this by Don Rosa and this by Carl Barks, but especially The Life and Times. This is everything you need to know about life. And he was like really serious about it. And it's like how he ran his business or something. And so Dan exposed me to the comics, and that opened a whole new door of not just character history for Scrooge McDuck, who I grew up loving because of DuckTales, but like all these great classic Disney duck comics. And that's how my channel actually started, because of those things Dan exposed me to. The first trailers of DuckTales, I'm like, oh, that's not from DuckTales. That's from Rosa. That's from Barks. That's like all this history. I'm like, oh man, because especially when that series was launching, it was right after a bunch of reboots that people didn't like. So there was a big reboot scare. And I saw that. I'm like, this reboot is clearly being handled by people who really love this stuff, and they're putting it all together. And it was so exciting. I had to make that video, and that's how I got started. You were asking about comics. Do you want to hear about the comics?
No, that was it's a great point, because that's one of the things that is special to us about DuckTales, because this DuckTales actually introduced us to the comics and the comic strips. Because as we got involved in the fandom and people kept screaming at us, read Life and Times, you morons, you don't know what you're missing. We were like, hold up, we'll get to it. And then we had a few people who said, no, listen, you really need to drop everything and just do this. And we did. And we've really come to appreciate them for what they are and what they mean to the lore of the characters. And I really like that there's all these different different segments of the fandom. I kind of wish we'd be a little nicer sometimes, because there are some people who are purist of one form or another. But I love all of it, and we're fans of all of it. We even Quack Pack's growing on me a little bit, and
that's a hard one, but I'm glad to hear it.
It was, but my oldest daughter enjoys it. She's been watching it on Disney Plus, and so I've opened myself up to watching it a few times, and I haven't hated every episode. It's been a lot better than, and we've had some people tell us on the podcast it's not quite as bad as people say. So, and I'm sure we'll have some more Quack Pack discussion as we talk about this promo that recently came out.
Yeah, when we get to that, I'll tell you my Quack Pack feelings, which are complex. But before we leave the subject of comics, let me just proselytize, if that's the correct word. Let me tell everyone about it. If you have a local comic shop, when things clear up, go check them out. See if they have any old Disney comics. It doesn't need to just be DuckTales or Duck related, but there's so much out there. There's Don Rosa and Carl Barks for the Scrooge McDuck and Donald Duck comic books, of course, but there's also these great comic strip archives. There's the Mickey Mouse archives, which are great, and the Donald Duck archives, which are completely different and not in the same storylines, but they open you to a different world, these characters, because before they were mascots for the Disney brand, and when they were just characters. You get a mischievous Mickey Mouse who's really, silly and takes risks, and who would never be allowed to be as mischievous as he is, today. He would never be allowed to do that because he's a corporate logo. Or you get Donald Duck in World War II, and he has to deal with like rationing and all these just completely different time periods. And they're just delightful, completely different takes on the character. And I definitely agree with you, Mitch, in that you just kind of look at it all types. You have your favorite thing. Like there's people that are really big Carl Barks fans that don't really like Don Rosa, or there's Don Rosa himself who isn't a very big fan of DuckTales, and he gets a little grumpy about it. It's kind of cute. But remember, this is a great big fandom, and there's so much to enjoy. So if you finished all of DuckTales and you're looking for more, there's so much more Donald Duck and McDuck family stuff out there.
That's a great call for people to check out the comics and to give them a chance, and to check out the other shows. And then, of course, you've probably got some comic readers who haven't watched a lot of the shorts. They're available now on Disney Plus. It's a lot of fun just to sit down with those old classic shorts and to give them a try too. Introduce them to kids, or to just sit back on a Friday evening and enjoy them for yourself.
I like when Three Caballeros fans find out about the Don Rosa stories that he had. He has those two great Three Cab stories.
There's also a Silly Symphonies book that came out in the last 6 months that's like just Jose. It's like the adventures of Jose and sometimes Donald and Panchito, but mostly just Jose had like a whole comic series in Brazil, and it's out there in the Silly Symphonies archives.
Yeah, that's one on our list. That's a character we've grown to love, and looking forward to learning more about him. There's just so much to read through, so much to get through. Pirate's got a pretty hefty list that he's gone through. I'm still trying to catch up to him.
Yeah, you got to hit that Carl Barks. We everybody I think on this podcast has finished the Don Rosa library, which we adored. But Carl Barks, we're almost to volume 22. So
he is so much. I'm a big fan of the comics, but I feel like I haven't even read half of them. I've got most of everything that's been put out in the Rosa Barks library, but a lot of them are still sealed because I just haven't had time to get to them. And there's a lot, especially Barks.
Years and years and years of comics there. So, but yeah, we'll continue to look back on those. Our last episode of this podcast, for anyone who hasn't heard it, we spoke with Dan Cunningham, who actually went through the almost 100 years of Disney Comics publishing. And it was a great education for those of us who were, like I told the story about how I was at a local convention that for the first time in my life, I came across multiple places where there were Uncle Scrooge comics, like lots and lots of Uncle Scrooge comics. I've never seen them in the wild. And I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what was what. So I was talking with Dan about it, and he was like, I could tell you a little bit about that. I was like, you know what? Let's put it on a podcast. So check that out. It was a lot of fun. Now, there's not a lot of news around the fandom, which is just crazy because we had so many tweets and conversations over the weekend. We had so many followers over the weekend. Thank you all for checking us out. And also, Pirate, you had the idea to ask people to share their Disney Duck and DuckTales collections. And man, we had a huge response from that.
Yeah, people are already in their house, quarantined, so might as well take some pictures of their goodies. And it was cool. I found some things that didn't exist, and I was trying to look it up to maybe spruce up my collection and add to it as well. And it's great to get display ideas, but it's cool to see how great people's collections in our fandom are. I mean, they're just magnificent.
You had one person that joined Twitter just to contribute to that, and their collection was like a museum gallery, and it was so good.
Yeah, I told him I wanted to live there. Seriously, it looked like every single figure you could imagine were in there. And it was cool because he said some of the stuff he has there is because he saw what we posted on the blog and found out it existed. So that's why you got to check out the blog, people.
Yeah, DuckTalks.com. I mean, we appreciate everyone checking us out, but most of all for interacting with us, because that's why we do it. You know, we're here talking about it on the podcast to try and spur conversations on Twitter and online. We want to support the show and support the fandom, and we're just glad that you all include us. And I think that's very cool. And, you know, even when things are just chaotic and going crazy, it's just a lot of fun to see everyone else's love for a item, you know, for a subject. And to be able to look through, I was battling the envious a few times with some of those pictures. There's some very cool collections. And one of the things that I thought was very cool were the collections that would have the mixture of the old and the new together, and just kind of seeing that character's progression to a point in you know, as a figure or as a plush. I thought it was very cool. So thank you all for including us and sending those out.
Somebody had a really cool Scrooge and Goldie plush, and someone asked him where they got it. He's like, I made him.
Oh, yeah.
Took a Donald and a Daisy and made him into a Scrooge and Goldie. I thought it was great.
I totally missed that. I'll have to go back and find that one.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. That's something that I love about fan communities. Like, that's the most incredible thing about fans is the things they create for what they love. I love seeing custom plushes or costumes, or if you really get into the action figure community, the custom action figures people make just completely blow my mind.
Sorry, that pause was because I was thinking about Fat Mojo and how they've let us down.
I'm also trying to remember the name of the figure that you have. That's one of you has. That's this incredibly super articulate Scrooge figure.
It's the Hero Cross.
Yeah. The Hero Cross. I am extremely jealous of that. If I wasn't on a budget right now, I would buy that whole set. But they're like the fancy Japanese anime figures. They're a little pricey.
Yeah, it's like the Hot Toys of Scrooge McDuck stuff. So, Sean, do you have a favorite character from the new DuckTales?
That's a mean question. I can't.
Come on,
that's really hard.
Everybody has a favorite, but the only right answer is Goldblum. Glom Gold. I can picture Goldblum being in this, but no, Glom Gold is the best.
Glom Gold. It's clearly the favorite character of like all the board artists. That's one of my other favorite things about this show. All the board artists are on Twitter and they share like all their deepest like thoughts and in jokes and opinions. And it's like they all love Glum Gold, and it's like it makes you love him even more. And
their episode posters.
Oh, their episode posters are amazing, especially when they were using Tumblr a little bit more. They'd post whole posters. Favorite character is really hard because this version of Scrooge is like I never thought that Alan Young could be replaced, and they did such a good job with David Tennant, and I really like this version of Scrooge. Like Webby is hilarious. The Boys is really hard because when I was a kid, I thought Louie was my favorite, even though they were all exactly the same in the original series. And now they're all so unique. It's just really tough. I think I get the most laughs and the most groans out of Launchpad, though. Yeah. Because when Launchpad's too dumb, he's too dumb. But when he's just dumb enough, he's perfect.
Yeah, Launchpad's pretty consistent of the three of DuckTales original, Darkwing Duck, and then and then this DuckTales version to be really great character. I was watching classic DuckTales episode today, and Glomgold was on there, and I was like, eh.
I mean, I really like classic Glomgold because he's a good rival to Scrooge, but he's not nearly as funny as new Glomgold. Yeah. I think my favorite character is a cheat. Actually, my favorite character in New DuckTales is Chris Diamantopoulos.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Every voice he does is the funniest thing.
Absolutely agree.
So talented. And the Mickey Mouse cartoons he does as well is just phenomenal. Every one of them.
I was trying to find where Frank was talking about Launchpad being dumb over on Tumblr, and I couldn't find it, so I failed.
What did he say?
Well, he said, I mean, like, I'm looking for it. It was something to the effect, someone asked him why Launchpad was so dumb, and he said that Launchpad's not dumb. It's something like we misunderstand him.
I mean, I could see that. I could totally see that.
Yeah, so I think the way they're writing him is that he really just kind of lives in his own little world. And the way he talks and reacts and everything he does is absolutely, it makes sense from his perspective. But for us, it just seems extremely silly and dumb. And I hate that I can't find it. I can't believe he's answered all these questions since then.
He's answered so many. That makes sense to me. I think that's one of the reasons I sort of every character in the show is a slightly different take. And like Launchpad in the original was he was more of a big brother and a jock, and he had this extreme confidence. And this Launchpad isn't as confident, and that just everything else about him is kind of the same, but he just lacks a little bit of confidence, and it changes so much about his character. And it's, I don't know, I think it's really interesting.
And do you think there's going to be some growth there? Because when you said that, that's absolutely true. I can think back to all these moments where that has been the case. And yet once they introduced Drake Mallard, the Launchpad around Drake was more confident. When you meet Jim Starling, he's not, because he faints. But as that episode goes, and he's the one trying to inspire them. And then when we get to Moonvasion, you have watched these episodes, right?
Yeah, I've watched them all. A lot of people, that happens a lot in the comments. People are like, "Have you watched this yet?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've watched it. I just haven't made the video."
I was assuming you had, but then I was like, "Wait a minute, maybe I should stop. Maybe he's got a process and I'm ruining it."
No. I've watched it, but yeah, he is way more confident, and you see some of that. I think there is some growth. It's just really subtle because he starts that again, like a really good call out. He starts that with Darkwing Duck, and then he gets a little bit more when he's like, "Oh, Della like totally like deflates him." He's like, "You're not a real pilot," and he's like, "All right, then teach me,"
Absolutely.
And so you get a lot of that, and I think it is building. We're gonna get to this in a minute, like you said, but there's some things in season 3 with the trailer with him that I'm really excited with. We're just one thing specifically, but.
So what do you think is the one thing that you know about that you're most excited about for season 3?
I said this on Twitter, so if anyone reads my replies to Frank, is it's two things. It's the DuckTales movie, but it's not really just that they're redoing the movie. One of the things I love about this series as a reboot is it asks the question, what if, a lot. And it shows in the trailer this scene that is exactly like the exact same set, which they don't normally do. Like normally they're like, this is our version of McDuck Manor. But in that, it's the same set of where they find the lamp in the original DuckTales movie. The scorpions at the bottom, a giant woven basket filled with treasure on top of a pedestal, and everyone's trapped up there. And in the original movie, they resolve it in this way, like they somehow jump down and put the basket over their head to protect them from the snapping giant scorpions. Mm-hmm. But now we got this completely different situation. They're all the same characters, but this is alternate universe where you have well, first of all, Beakley's there, which I don't think she was there in the original movie, and Beakley's a completely different character. Scrooge is different. All 3 kids have their own personality, all 3 boys rather, and Webby's there. And Webby, I'm really interested to see what this confident adventurer Webby is like in this situation, because they're saying like, yeah, with this movie was this way, but our characters are different. So I don't know. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, in the trailer, she looks like she's going to jump down there to get the scorpions. Like,
Right.
She's throwing stuff. She doesn't even care. I'll go after him.
No, she doesn't think ahead, which is her character flaw, which makes her great.
Even Donald's there, and he's not even in the original movie. And then we have Della, who of course isn't in the movie either. So it is going to bring it to a totally different dynamic depending on like these characters on how they're going to react to this situation.
Yeah, and so that's why that scene excites me, because it's like, here's a thing you know, but like it's like I don't know if you guys ever read Marvel What If comics, but it's the same thing. It's like, what if we change this one thing, and it creates a whole new story, and I always think that's really exciting, and the new series has been really good about that. Like, what if we knew who Donald's sister was, or what if Donald was there during DuckTales? What if Launchpad? I don't know. There's so many. So that's what I'm really excited about from the trailer. But I've only watched it like once or twice.
And I like how with that scene and the fact that we're going to get part of that movie a lot of that movie, I would assume, in these coming episodes, is that we had that episode season 2 that we all thought was going to have a lot of movie influences, and it totally went in a completely different direction. In that we the Found Lamp.
Yeah.
Legend of the Found Lamp. Wasn't that the name of the title?
Yeah.
I think that was it. That was at least the plot.
Yeah, but we all assumed it was going to have some references to the original movie. And there was a little bit there. But now we see we're going to get a lot more of that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I was going to say that lamp is still even the same lamp that they're showing in this promo, right? It's the exact same lamp. So it's kind of interesting how that's going to roll over, because they had the lamp, but then obviously this is supposed to be a different one, but it looks identical.
I think that episode was it was sort of a setup. It was focused on Dijon, right? Was he even called Dijon in the new one?
Yes.
Wasn't it Jin? It was. I
think
Jin.
it was Jin. And the original it was Dijon, and I don't know how much you guys want to cover this sort of thing, but in the fullness of time, the character of Dijon didn't age so well.
Right.
So they kind of spent that episode as like, well, hey, let's take the same concept of this character, but let's reimagine him. So I think now that he's established, they can do the whole, more of the movie stuff, but you can't just skip over that very easily.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff from the original show, and then also from many of the comic storylines that today.
Oh yeah.
Well, we can't say you can't do it, because I feel like DuckTales 2017 has done it successfully. Even when we stop and look at things like Bombi and the completely different direction they went with this show, it's perfect. I mean, I loved it. I love the way they used some of the influence of the original character and yet completely ignored all the stuff that just was unnecessary.
Yeah, they took what was exciting about that. I'm spoiling like one of my next videos right now. They took what was exciting about that character is that he was relentlessly chasing Scrooge, and what made that adventure work, and then just disregarded everything that's outdated from that time. And it was just so well done that you don't even notice it. And I remember when it was starting, I was like, how are they gonna do this when they advertised that episode? And then I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, they totally made it work. They just took the element of the story that was exciting in the first place, had nothing to do with what was outdated about it.
What if the Hulk had to chase the richest duck in the world?
Yeah, that's basically what it became. It was great.
It was great. Well, let's take a moment, and I'm going to play the audio for the trailer, and we're going to take a last look at it before we kind of break it down a little bit.
It's more precious than I ever could have imagined.
This could help us find the greatest lost mysteries of all time.
What do you say, family? Of course. This is a stupendous plan.
Ready?
I was born ready.
All we have to do is beat the scorpions.
Breathe the devil's teeth in the eternal quicksand. Say the passcode, win the card game.
Checkmate.
Speedboat chase!
The veil of reality is disintegrating.
Okay, that is a little weird.
The legacy is alive. Survive the gauntlet.
Locate the villain's lair. Slay the unfathomable phoenix garden treasure.
In a fun way.
Don't you want to fight a massive and ferocious bear with claws the size of a man?
I'm going to get my grandma. And she's not very nice, even though she's the world's best grandma.
Now that is an adventure.
Groovy.
All right, so this trailer promo. We're calling it a trailer. Everybody's excited about it, and everywhere I look online, I see trailer. Promo starts with a clip from the Halloween episode. Now, we know we're not getting the Halloween episode up front, but keep in mind that production-wise, the Halloween episode and I think the Christmas episode, as they're being called online, were first in production because, well, we don't know the because, but we are assuming it was thought the show would start at the end of last year. Since, actually, I guess we can say that, because when they first said season 3 was coming, they said season 3 was coming in 2019, and it did not. So these episodes will probably air later in the year, but we do get a few clips. There's a few of them, actually, even later in this promo or trailer. We get a few clips from what I believe is going to be this episode. But we start with some sort of, haunted house going on in the front, or we're in front of a haunted house, and we get all new episodes. And so that's real quick. Then we go to what we actually used as our episode cover for our last episode with Scrooge and Webby looking in a box. And there's a very familiar symbol in the background. It's the symbol for the junior woodchucks of the world.
I didn't notice that on the side, but that's totally what that is.
Yeah, we actually had someone, and I don't have it in front of me, or I would call their name out and let them know, you know who you are. Thank you for pointing it out, because as soon as you said it, I didn't even have to pull up the image. I immediately knew that it was there, and I just had not gotten excited about it yet. But I would imagine this episode, we know that on the Senior Junior Woodchuck episode, which I think is the season premiere, that episode's going to have a story with Huey and Violet competing, but we're also going to get a side story with the family searching after something. So I think that's what this is going to be from. And I'm still saying it would be very cool if we get the history of the Junior Woodchuck guidebook and the Library of Alexandria, or something very Don Rosa-esque.
Good. I was going to wonder if you knew that story, because I was going to bring it up. The history of the Junior Woodchuck guidebook. I don't know the actual name of the story. It's a great story. Anyone who has those libraries, of just Scrooge trying to get the Woodchuck guidebook, and they're like, "No, you can't have it. You're not a woodchuck."
It'll be a great episode.
That looks really good.
So are we going to talk about these in order of the episodes, or on this, or by images?
I was just going to go by the images that we have, because I tried to grab each scene. And Sean, this is what I tried to send to you, but it wouldn't let me.
Too big.
Yeah. So it's just going in the order of the promo.
That's fine. I'll slide around on YouTube and find what you're looking for at any point.
Okay. Pirate, since you brought up the fact that it looks like we're going to get, or Josh, you brought up the lamp, didn't you? No, there's Pirate. You want to bring up the next scene jumps to what we believe is going to be the Quack Pack episode with the genie.
Sure. After that, we get an image of Donald Duck, and he's looking at the lamp that is from the DuckTales movie. Now, we believe this is going to be from the episode Quack Pack, which is the second episode of the season, because in the the episode description, it talks about a wish, and we feel like that has some kind of connection to Gene the Genie, and we feel like that's going to be a big episode. I know Frank was talking about, oh man, that episode is coming April 4th. So there's going to be a lot going on there. And we think the DuckTales movie, The Treasure of the Lost Lamp, is going to be from that episode.
Well, I got to say, I see Donald looking at that lamp, and I just really hope he wishes to get Donald Cheadle's voice back.
Well, and
that's a great segue, because Don Cheadle is listed as a voice for that particular episode, as well as Bill Farmer is going to be Goofy in that episode.
Oh,
this is going to be a wild episode.
I don't know how they're going to pack it in 22 minutes. So
I know it seems like this could have been the season premiere and been 2 episodes long. But I have faith in them. They're going to do a good job. It's going to be crazy. There's scenes coming up with just stuff. I mean, people are losing their minds online over the fact that we have humans in some of these scenes, and it's got to be the same episode.
It's got to be the same episode. I have some theories about that already, but before I get to that, I feel like now that I know Goofy's in that episode, I feel like this episode was maybe like Frank's like, okay, I want to do all of the Disney afternoon all at once, and Disney's like, all right, Frank, you get one episode, just you get one.
Well, the synopsis is that I guess maybe Scrooge wants a family photo, and we know from a Goofy movie that Goofy's a photographer, so we think that he's going to be the photographer in this particular episode.
See, I would think that too, but what I've learned from the writers of DuckTales is every time I think I've got the logical connection, I'm wrong. They just throw me for a curve, and so I'm like, that's what I think, but I'm probably wrong.
It'd be funny if there's at least a gag in there about him taking a photo or something, because he's wearing Goof Troop clothes, so once removed. After that, we move into an under-the-sea image of mermaids, and we've talked about last episode of our podcast and in previous episodes, but Pirate was onto something. Launchpad is very acquainted with mermaids in that he dated one, at least for a while. Oceanica, I believe was her name, in the Feathery episode.
Oh, yeah.
What was the name of that episode? Anyway,
That's what I call it, a Feathery episode.
Me too. We watched it this weekend. But yeah, he calls out to Oceanica, and I think she had red hair off in the distance. I could be wrong there, but we see some mermaids, and we also see another creature that's in the shadow that does not quite look as nice as mermaids. And then we cut to some Huey stuff, doing woodchuck stuff. There's a quick... I mean, all you see is him dressed as a woodchuck and then trying to cross a volcano, and you can see that in the middle there's a junior woodchuck symbol. So, I mean, we know the Senior Junior Woodchucks episode, I kind of like that title, is the season premiere, and we know about this storyline that he's competing with Violet. It's going to be a lot of adventure, it looks like. They have the woodchucks crossing lava.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed so for that particular episode, we know it's Huey versus Violet, but we don't see any Lena in this promo trailer. So I would hope that Lena would go support her new sister, but we don't know if she's in this one.
Well, I think she's too cool for woodchucks. I feel like that's something that's like not her thing. She'd be just like, nah.
That's the second thing I think I'm most excited about for this is I was always a big woodchuck fan growing up, partially because I was in Cub Scouts growing up, so that was like something I could relate to the kids with. But the woodchucks always seemed a little bit cooler, and they've clarified this in interviews, and I think in one of the comics that the other two boys are part of the woodchucks. They're just not super into it, and so I'm pretty excited to see more of it.
And then we get Dewey from what looks like the third episode that we're going to get this season with Double O Duck, and looks like he's going to be Launchpad's sidekick on this journey and adventure. And we also get a glimpse of Steelbeak, who we still don't know who's voicing Steelbeak. We hope it's Paulson, but that's not confirmed yet.
And I think that's why they're holding on to it. That's my gut. I could be wrong, but I think that's why we don't know. But have you noticed that in all of these clips, they're wearing glasses? I wonder if that's just like part of the disguise, if that's going to be a gag, or if the glasses hold some sort of importance. Because even Steelbeak's wearing them at some point.
Probably have cameras in them. Have you watched a spy show before?
Yeah, I have. Don't you remember that vlog that I did? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like they hold some sort of key to something for this episode. Boat chases, that's coming up a little bit later in this trailer. All kinds of great stuff from that episode. And then we go back to the woodchucks, and we see everybody as the race gets ready to start, and Josh gets his scene that he's been looking forward to.
Well, there's two scenes quickly that we have. The first one has like a group of them where they're getting ready, like they're a group of people behind, not people, I guess. It's the Huey and Violet getting ready to go, and then behind them you see Boyd all dressed as a Wood Scout, and then next to him you see Doofus, and I'm excited about that because he's supposed to be in the Junior Woodchuck, so maybe he's calmed down a bit. And that's what I'm hoping.
We better get a Super Do in this episode.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
not Super Do. I do love that callback though. That now like they've got because they're like brothers now. I forgot that Boyd is like he's your new brother.
So Boyd probably wanted to do it, and so he has to probably is being dragged along into the Woodchucks. But then we have Launchpad dressed up, and I've always wanted him to be like the Scoutmaster because he was in the original series, and it looks like he's kind of taking that lead now, and that makes me very excited because Launchpad Scoutmaster is the best Scoutmaster.
Also in that scene, we get a first glimpse of a new character of Violet's dad, who we found out from Frank was asked at San Diego Comic-Con about Violet's family, and we find out that Violet has two dads, and that's one of them in that shot.
Does it show a better picture of him, or just
There
like
is.
you see his like leg?
You can see his face.
No, it's only like half his head.
Yeah,
you can't see him until Violet bends over a little bit, but you know.
He's got like a high top butch cut, and he's super buff.
Yeah. Everyone's at this event. This is a big deal, whatever they're competing for. And you know it's going to be a great episode.
Got to have a call out to Donald Duck's fanny pack.
Yes. I love the fanny pack, and it reminds me of when he rubs the sunscreen on his beak and says, "I used to be so cool." That's one of my favorite lines of that episode. Or "I was so cool." That's what it was. And then from there, we move back to scenes that are reminiscent of the DuckTales movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. And it is very much straight out of the movie. I mean, even the raft, or spoiler for anyone who's not seen the movie, what they're on top of as they're trying to get away from the scorpions, or as they're looking down on the scorpions. It is exactly out of the movie. I mean, I don't even have to look at images of the movie. It just automatically made me think of it.
Right, the basket's the exact same design with the rope that ties it into these little bundles, and it's the thing is I didn't go back for reference at all. It was so dead on perfect to what I remember when I watched the movie when I was a kid, as well as when we watched it again last year, that I'm almost shocked that they went this dead on to the design.
Following that, we jump back to the Woodchucks, and we get a disturbing scene as Huey is, instead of, it no longer looks like he's running to something, it looks like he's running from something. And someone pointed this out online. They asked us, what's up with the Junior Woodchuck guidebook having a face? And it does. The Junior Woodchuck guidebook has eyes and a mouth. And I don't know what's going on here.
I think he ate some poison berries.
He's hallucinating.
He's totally hallucinating. This is his like conscious telling him to do things by the book. And he's probably going to have like an internal turmoil of like doing things by the book, or improvising like Louie or Dewey would.
The Woodchucks have shot him with darts or something, haven't they? This is going to get crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they actually credited for that episode is the voice of J.W. Guidebook, and that is Stephen Root from Office Space. So he's the guy that needs a stapler.
It's my stapler.
Oh.
Stapler.
That's going to be weird.
Frank has said things are going to get weird this season. At least he said there's an episode where things are going to get weird, and I think that's got to be Quack Pack. But this episode is looking weird too.
I don't know. I bet it's not. I'm not sure. All I know is that he and the other staffers keep tweeting back. It's like, hell, that episode's coming. Remember when we did this? And they're having these inside jokes, and it's freaking me out.
It's going to be like Bubba again.
That was amazing.
Everybody's like, "What is it? What is it? It's going to infuriate half the fandom. People are going to like throw their table, TV, whatever." And then it's like, it's Bubba is the ancestor.
I thought Bubba was always the ancestor. That's how I always took it as a kid.
I maybe he's in the right spot, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So then we get Steelbeak in his glasses facing off, and then we cut to a very dapper-looking Launchpad and Dewey in glasses at a card table, very Casino Royale-like. And I just realized there's a stage in the background, and I seem to remember there's a lot of attention given to the stage at some point in this scene, and then we're going to kind of jump track over to the poster that was released. And now I'm forgetting who released the poster.
Jay Zurich did.
Yeah, Zurich did. So he did the poster for this episode, the Double O Duck episode, and he has a female character in the back that has everybody guessing as to who it is.
Well, it could be Feathers Galore because that is the name of the character from the original DuckTales Double O Duck episode. So that's my guess on that. But also just to throw details in there, I love if you do close up on Launchpad's playing cards, they have little pizza slices on them.
No way.
Oh, in the back of them?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I know his hand cracked me up because it's 3 hearts, a diamond, and a gold coin. But yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. I mean, Double O Duck. I mean, we're fans of Darkwing, and we know that's where it came from. That episode, I went back and watched it on St. Patrick's Day because we watched I can't remember the name of the episode now, but the St. Patrick's Day episode, the Leprechaun, not St. Patrick's Day episode. I take that back. The Leprechaun episode from the original DuckTales, and the next episode or the one before it was Double O Duck, and we watched that, and that's such a great episode of the old show.
I wonder how deep they're going to go because, like you said, it inspired Darkwing Duck, which was going to be called Double O Duck before they had to rename it because they were worried about the James Bond folks being upset. So I wonder if they're going to dip into any of the preliminary show pitch designs for that.
Yeah, that would be great.
My guess is that Frank wrote that one.
Yeah. It's possible.
I bet you it's on that poster. I'm gonna bring up the poster to see if Frank is listed as the.
Oh yeah,
the head writer.
Oh, I do have.
But
the pizzas.
You know he was involved at some point because the way their writer room works. Someone said something about it on Twitter. Is they basically all write it in one big room together, like at the table, and then someone refines it. So if he wasn't the person refining the final script, he at least gave like half of those ideas.
Yeah. I love the when it was brought up about the moon theme, and they first pitched it in the room, and they were like, "We didn't put a lot of thought into the words of the lullaby because we know you're going to want to do it."
Yeah, I think it was something like I think it was Youngberg. Like Matt said, "Hey, we need the words. Do you have words for this?" And like 5 minutes later, he had like 4 verses for him.
Yeah. Were you still looking at that poster, Pirate?
Written by Christian. No, it wasn't Frank.
Oh, it was Magales.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to remember. Was he the huge Gladstone fan? I don't know. I'm gonna leave that out. Somebody is the book on Gladstone Gander on the team. But so the next scene. We're getting back to Quack Pack. So we think this is the same episode that started off with all of the movie scenes. And we get this Avenger-esque scene where we've got a camera rotating around our heroes as they're ready to fight. And you have Beakley in her classic clothing from the original show. I don't even know what Louie's wearing, honestly. I think he's got like a bow on the front and some kind of gloves. Scrooge is in his blue clothing. Launchpad's in classic clothing. Everybody's in different clothing, but there's a couple of things that really stand out. One Pirate pointed out to me, and I just my jaw dropped as soon as I saw it. Let's talk about that first, because the second part is controversial, and we'll probably spend some time on.
So that's what Launchpad is actually holding as weapon is a saxophone, and that is directly from from one of the Darkwing Duck comic books that Sparrow and Silvani worked on. There's a part where
shirtless
Launchpad grabs a saxophone and starts wailing on it, and it's funny. Sparrow, of course, recognized that as well, and. He gave the background from where he did it with Launchpad was from his favorite movie Lost Boys, where there's just some random vampire dude wailing on a sax shirtless. So that is a really, really, really deep cut yet that you have to know. And like Sean was mentioned earlier, read the comics and you get all the background and everything makes more sense to you.
There's a lot of good gags like that in the Silvani Sparrow comics. I didn't know that one though. I remember I saw you guys on Twitter freaking out the saxophone. I'm like, what about the saxophone? I mean, he looks great with it, but
it was kind of confirmed too because it's kind of confirmed too because Sam King goes, and no one guessed my favorite deep cut of this whole thing. And somebody goes, "Is a launch pad?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay. It's what he has." And I'm like, "Dude, we found that already."
Yeah. Now the second thing is that the characters or the villains, the maniac-looking eyes and teeth, do not have dog noses or beaks. These are humans attacking our heroes. And now we've talked about that when we've talked about Quack Pack in the past. That show included humans, which was odd. And it looks like that's going to be part of this episode.
See, I don't disagree with you that this is the Quack Pack episode because we know it is because of the outfits they're wearing. That's already been revealed, the classic clothes, which I love, by the way. Seeing Scrooge in the blue again is super exciting. But I don't actually think that these are because they're in the Quack Pack world. My guess, based on a single image of a waterfall that's in another promo that's going around Twitter, is some wish goes wrong and like everyone turns into a human. So we might at some point, I'm wondering, see human versions of the cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think one of the ones we see in that waterfall shot that's going around is one of the cast, but I don't know who.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. I don't know that I'm familiar with this one. But I agree. I don't think they go to a Quack Pack world. I think people within their universe start turning into humans. Or humans start like coming through a portal or something.
Yeah, either way, it looks like they're being treated like monsters or zombies, like they're fighting off a zombie horde of humans. These horrific monsters without beaks.
And it would be to them. Now, later in the promo, it's toward the very, very end, we see Beakley just wailing on a couple of characters. And those characters are, in fact, it's a dog and a bird. So I could see your theory being correct that maybe some normal people get turned into humans and come to attack them. And maybe Beakley's just wailing on a whole bunch of them and they're changing back and she doesn't realize it.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
But as long as we're overanalyzing frames, though, while we're talking, I've been scrubbing through this scene, watching it spin around and around. My favorite thing about it isn't Launchpad saxophone. It's not the clothing. It's that everyone's fighting except for Louis, who's just making a funny face.
And pointing.
Yeah, he doesn't fight. He makes a face.
And it's very Avengers-like. That's the Avengers scene.
Very iconic. So we get some more of Double O Duck, and then we get, Friday the 13th? Callback with, I'm guessing, Launchpad. I mean, it definitely looks like Launchpad. I'm guessing this is a Halloween episode.
I like that he has a hand buzzsaw instead of like a real
I hadn't picked up on that until just now.
Oh yeah, he does. It's totally a buzzsaw. There's a couple of things about this image I like. One, he's clearly got like sort of a Jason mask on, but since it's a duck hockey mask, it's totally a reference to that Mighty Ducks action show, which is the weirdest thing. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
But my other thing that I like about it is the tombstones are "Here lies hairy worm food." Or a man to cry for.
Yeah, it makes me really wonder what this episode is going to be about. It's giving me early Simpsons Halloween episode vibes.
Yeah, it looks. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's if they just did that and it was them telling stories and it was 3 shorts. That could be a lot of fun. That would be super satisfying.
Oh, I'm on board for that. Then we flash back to what I'm assuming is Quack Pack because of the clothing of the characters. We have Dewey in some sort of earlier century clothing, and we have Donald in his classic blue and gold with the red bow tie. But he's getting his hair
wearing
washed.
Yeah, he's also wearing the same outfit that Louis is later on. That remember he was saying what kind of outfit he was wearing with the bow. He's wearing the same outfit, but later
same hat and everything.
Outfit.
Yeah.
Quack
I think
Pack's
that's going to be I think that's Quack Pack. They're going through wishes or something. If your guys' lamp theory is correct, that's wishes going haywire.
Then we cut back to a Halloween scene where we get the Dewey doll, or it reminds me of the Dewey mascot from the Dream episode. But it could be just a Dewey doll with his eye popping out in front of an old style TV.
Yeah, it reminds me of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Mm-hmm. And then the extremely fun scene with the twins. With Donald and Della, where we get the angel and devil costumes.
Yeah, that's great. One of you pointed out online that that's a reference to a very specific old cartoon.
Yeah, it was a 1941 World War II propaganda cartoon that Disney had it back then. That was pretty popular as far as old Donald Duck cartoons go. It's called Donald's Decision, and it was Donald trying to decide whether he wanted to spend his money on war certificates to help support the war, or was he going to spend the money on himself? Of course, an angel Donald appears and a devil Donald appears and tries to bring him to each side of should he spends it on himself or the war. And it's just funny that Della is the devil and Donald is the voice of reason.
I mean, that makes sense for this version of Donald. He's really gone straight and tried not to be angry. I can definitely see him after 10 years of trying to be a responsible adult and raising 3 children, Della coming back and being like, nah, let's go have some fun.
On point for the character for DuckTales, for sure. Then we finally get to see Goofy. And he's in the McDuck mansion because in the background we see the painting of Scrooge, Prospector Scrooge. So I
want to know who's grabbing his butt.
Right.
But it was some claws.
And again, we're thinking this is Quack Pack with the wishes gone wrong. So, it's going to be a weird one.
I'm slowly developing a whole theory about how I think this episode's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Della dressed up in woodchuck clothing with the hat and everything next to Donald with his fanny pack. So they're following Huey around, I guess, on this quest that he has. Or maybe this is a scene where the family's doing their own thing. But I think Donald's got binoculars. So I think they're watching Huey. And then back to Quack Pack to wrapping around. We get to see more humans. We see that Huey's dressed for the 90s and holding up the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook. I'm guessing he's using it maybe to hit somebody. I don't know. And then a deep cut from the parks when we go to Scrooge holding a map out in the woods, and wasn't a very familiar bird to me, but I knew it represented something, but it was somebody on Twitter who pointed it out. That this is from, which park is it? Is it Paris where there's the woodchuck area? Japan. Do you know what the bird is?
No, it's whoever told us knew exactly what it was.
Yeah, I meant to have that pulled up in the notes and I didn't.
But Frank had also said that there was going to be a lot of references from Camp Woodchuck from Tokyo Disney in this episode. And apparently this bird it looks like it might be an animatronic or at least some kind of figure in that episode.
I'm just trying to remember if I've been to Camp Woodchuck. I went to Tokyo once.
Yeah, so that was Dan Alexander over on Twitter. But he let us know that was the Tittertwill bird from Tokyo Disneyland's Camp Woodchuck Kitchen. So, and seen images of this bird since then, but once we knew what it was, we started looking for it, and sure enough, there it is. It's in front of a building, and I believe it is an animatronic, like you said. I haven't seen video of it, but I believe it is. After this, we go to a scene that was my girl's favorite, which was Webby in the face of a new character, letting him know that he messed with her granny, and she would not be happy with it. She was going to, do business. And it was, I think it was Amoris Patos who pointed out over on Twitter that this looks like Gene the Genie.
A little bit.
Now, we've only seen Yeah, the beak is identical. We've only seen one image of DuckTales 2017's version. But as far as the feather color and the beak goes, it looks pretty spot on. Also, based on Webby's clothes, guessing Quack Pack, wishes, it all makes sense. It's coming together.
It's coming together.
Telling you guys, I'm building a theory thing. I think I've got a whole plot outlined.
I can't wait for the video.
Well, no, that's I'm not gonna. Don't assign me work. I have too many. I can't make a theory video. I don't have time.
He's 4 videos behind. Come on.
So then we get to, I referenced this earlier with Beakley wailing on some characters that were not human while wearing the clothing that we think she will wear in Quack Pack. So feeding into that theory of people transforming, and then a really weird image of Louie in a sports jacket, or no, I guess that's not technically a sports jacket. It's a
track jacket.
It looks like like a fitness hoodie.
Yeah, there we go. And he swipes a heart at us with a striped background behind him. It I don't know. It kind of reminded me of the Dream episode that we had in season 2. I'm wondering how that will fit into Quack Pack, but I'm wondering how everything's going to fit into Quack Pack. It looks like a huge episode.
You want to hear what I think's going on?
Well, if you're not going to do a video, I'd love to hear it now.
All right, I'll tell you now. So, just based on what we watched this preview, since we've been slowly going through it, I've been gathering like little hints. So, we know it's about taking a picture, right? But I don't think the episode starts that way. The episode probably starts same way the movie starts, right? Them going to get a treasure. And then that treasure's the lamp. So they get the lamp, and they're not going to do anything with it right away because Scrooge is not in any kind of rush to get anything done. He's got the treasure. He'll take care of it later. And he says, we're going to get our family photo taken. And while he's trying to get Goofy over to take the family photo, people keep sneaking off to try and make wishes, right? And I figured out only 2 wishes so far. Uh-huh. I think Donald wishes, or another adult, that the kids would just be nice, well-behaved children, which results in, we've seen Louie and Dewey wearing this over nice, really properly dressed, pampered child hat and bow, like, a really dorky adult might picture an ideal child to have. And that falls apart. Like, their personalities start to come through as Dewey can't be well behaved for so long. So that's why he's vigorously and painfully washing Donald's hair at some point. And I think later Louie probably gets a hold of it, or Louie or Huey get a hold of it, and they wish that Huey and maybe him, they wish they were all cool. And then you get them being then the Quack Pack kids in that thing. That's where Louie is wearing this jacket. That's where Huey's wearing a 90s, hashtag hat, and he's got a cool jacket. And I don't know what other people wish for so far, but I think that's where it starts to fall apart. They're all going off, making their greedy wishes. Each person gets 3 wishes, maybe. I don't know how many wishes there are total. In the movie, it was 3 wishes total, no matter who did it, I think. Yeah. No. Everyone had 3 wishes in the movie, I think.
Yeah, whoever.
I think another one of Donald's will be a better voice.
Yeah,
Donald
would get
Don's. Yeah, he'll wish for a better voice and better behaved kids, or maybe someone, or also. So that's where I'm thinking those are indicators of what their wishes are. How it all falls apart yet, I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure that last thing of Louie wished everyone was cool, and he's being the cool suave guy, like pressing like on a phone. I don't know.
I think that's it in a nutshell. I think that's what's going to happen in the episode, and it's going to be zany. Now, Quack Pack and Challenge of the Senior Junior Woodchucks will premiere on the 4th, on April 4th. So 9:30 a.m. on Disney XD, and also on Disney Now. But we keep warning people, don't expect it to show up on Disney Now if you do not have a subscription to Disney XD. I'm still assuming you got to have the subscription to watch it on Disney Now, but it will premiere there as well.
It probably won't be on Disney Plus for half the season. Now, we actually haven't had a season of DuckTales while it's active, so we don't know if they'll put them up week to week, but I'm guessing no.
Yeah, Frank has said on Tumblr that as far as he knows, the entire season will air before it moves to Disney Plus.
Yeah, that sounds probably right, which means it probably won't be on Disney Plus until October if they're going to wait for the Halloween or holiday episodes.
Yeah, we're also getting the Scrooge and Santa episode this season too. So it could be 2021 before we get the third season.
No, that is so far away.
It is, especially for someone who doesn't have a subscription to Disney XD. I still got to figure that out.
Yeah, that's the same problem with me. I've been doing these reviews and all without a cable subscription. I'm not, I don't endorse any kind of piracy, but like going to going to my mom's house to get
right.
the video is very difficult.
Agreed.
And then you're, what do you want to watch at my house? Cartoons.
Yeah.
Can I borrow your login and just not explain it? And I thought I was really good about this whole, cartoons and YouTube thing. I was just kind of flying under the radar. My parents thought I was a regular adult, and then one day I found out, I was like, oh no, everyone knows about that.
Yeah. Do you have Lucky Charms when I come over on Saturday morning?
Yeah, you can't hide who you really are from your parents. It doesn't work.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, they're like, you do what? It's like radio? What is it? And you talk about cartoons? Because apparently my kids told them everything one day. So they were like, what is this about you being on the radio?
No, yeah.
Never mind. So, but it's a fun trailer. There's a lot going on. We broke down some of it. I'm sure there's things we've missed, and I'm sure there's things that we've said that have spurred other thoughts. And people are already thinking through this. It's a lot of fun online to see people's thoughts. Make sure you share with us your theories. We've already got people emailing us to make sure we're ready to take voicemails once season 3 premieres. And yes, we will continue to do voicemails. I do want one request to everybody. Because so many people are interested in sending voicemails and we want to listen to the voicemails and react to them, try to keep them under 2 minutes. And that way we can include as many as we can and include it in the podcast because, like we've always said, the conversation is why we're here. We want to include you. It's a call-in show is not easy to pull off. We're still trying to figure that out. But it is fun to get those voicemails. And for those of you who are wondering, how do I send you a voicemail? The best way to do that, record yourself on your mobile device, save that file, send it over in an email to ducktalkspod@gmail.com, and we'll use the file in a future episode. But before we go, Sean, you want to tell people where they can find you for excellent DuckTales videos and also for conversation over on maybe on the Twitter?
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet. Every service, every video game service, PlayStation, Nintendo, Twitter, YouTube as Seaniccus. Seaniccus. I like to tell people that's Seaniccus with 2 C's, but I don't think that helps. So yeah, youtube.com/Seaniccus, Seaniccus. And you can find me there, Seaniccus, on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to anyone. Lots of fans have sent me direct messages, and I can't get to them all. But if I have time, I usually talk to people because people are fun to talk to. And like Mitch said earlier, the real fun of this entire hobby of doing YouTube videos or podcasts is interacting with all the other people and fans out there. I've made a bunch of friends just doing this. I've been talking to the DuckTalks guys just on Twitter for a year and a half, just casually. We'll be like, did you see this yet? And that's been the most rewarding part of all of this. So if you want to talk, reach out. And if I can, I'll respond.
You can always check us out over at DuckTalks.com. We're on Twitter at DuckTalks and other places, but that's mostly where we're active, is on Twitter. And you can find us individually. I am at Infinirama616.
And I can't believe there was no Glomgold in that promo. I'm at the Pirate Steven.
And you can find me at CCRunner524.
And that's going to do it for this week. Until next time.
Stay Glomgolden.
You can dream it. You can do it.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Oh, thanks for joining us, man. DuckTalks is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Any sounds or audio clips played on this podcast are the property of their copyright holders.